Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everybody. Oh, goodness gracious. Welcome in, welcome in. Hello. Good morning, good morning. We're struggling here. I think a lot of people, hello, Micah. We are struggling with the SAVE Act, everybody. I see it. I see we're struggling. Yes, thank you, Alex. Hello, and is it Karimg? Sorry, Carrie MG. Sorry, Jake. Welcome. Snakes and larks. Oh, hello. Welcome. Willie B. Oh, always good to see you. Well, good morning. I had wanted to go live yesterday morning, but I didn't. So, but I did go live a couple of other times. Hello, Carrie. All right, thank you. I'm glad you told me. The whole time I'd be like, Karimga? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I cracked myself up. So, that's what's important these days. But, talking to the people and listening to the people, there's a huge misunderstanding here of what's going on with the SAVE Act. So I thought, well, let's look at it. Let's look at it. Let's take a look and see what the words actually say. Now, many people will probably be like, "Oh, I gotta fall asleep." I understand. But I think the only way we're truly going to get to the bottom of what's going on with the SAVE Act is to look to the language itself. And in order to do that, we are going to have to annotate and talk about it. So I'm bringing you on my annotation tour here. I have gone through these, but did save the annotations to do together. So if you wanted to print out your bills, which nobody does, but if you want to pull them up on your computer or your phone, you'll see where we're coming from. Hello, Breaking. Oh my gosh, hello, welcome. Hi, Courtney. So today we're going to not just read through the SAVE Act and figure out what the H is going on, but we will be doing that. But I'm also going to show you how to break apart law. All right, so this is the Voter Registration Act of 1993 that everyone's been talking about. So here's our law, and then we have a bill on Make Elections Great Again Act. That's the doozy. And then over here we've got another bill, right? And it's called Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, or the Save America Act. All right, so the original SAVE Act has been morphed into this one. Now, this one over here, yeah, so this one is just Make the Elections Great Again. Let me make sure here. That is HR 7300. Yep, so they've got a number on them. I'll go through them and we will annotate. We'll break it apart so everybody knows what it all means, because I think that's one of our biggest problems. Is that we don't really know what it all means. And the news people are like, blah, 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 blah. And quite frankly, not accurate. That's driving me crazy. All right, so welcome in, everybody. Let's talk about it. Hello, Dolphin. Always good to see you. I'm very happy to be able to be here this morning and try to get this situation sorted out because it's like I can feel the stress coming through my phone. So let's take care of business here. The best thing we can do is figure out how it works. Hi, Nani. Oh, good to see you. And then when you know how it works, you can go out and share that knowledge with others, which is which is the hope. So I'm going to make a little sticky note here, and I'm going to be flipping pages around a lot, so I need to put it down here. But my sticky note. Oh, really? Well, here we are then, right? Hi, Joy. Hello. So we're going to talk about voter registration. Now, this is kind of a ding word here, so I'm going to be careful, but I will also tell you if for some reason this live gets pulled down, which it might, because I'm getting dinged a lot in the TikTok world. But if that happens, I will just switch over to my Tube of You channel, all right, which is the same name. So we won't leave you hanging here. I'll move over there and we'll kind of finish things up a little bit, just in case we get taken down. Now, of course, the likes help get us through any kind of reporting or whatever. So I'll just say that, all right? So if it goes down and you're like, where'd you go? I'm over on the Tube. Come find me on the Tube. Oh, no worries, itty bitty kitty. That's funny. No worries. This is one live that I will have up as soon as I'm done. I will be uploading it and putting it over onto my Tube of You. So yes, new deals. So I usually takes a few days for me to get them up on the Tube, but this is so important. It needs to go up today. So, per my understanding, federal and state constitutions. Yes, and I think you're right. So I think it's good for us to go through and find where the problems are. So we've got voter, and I'm just going to call these acts because we have multiple pieces coming in for the Voter Registration Act. So we have the safeguard. I'm going to write the full thing out here because they're crazy with their titles here. Safeguard American, I'm guessing just North, or are we Middle American? You know, we have Central, Central America, and then we've got, because we've got Canada up there, right? Alas, I babble as I make the sticky note. I don't know. I did a post a while back, and I posted it today again so everyone could enjoy it, but I was talking about how we bought Alaska from Russia, and I was like, are they going to ask for it back? Because if that happens, what do we do, right? I mean, is Alaska like our Greenland? I don't know if it is or not. But anyway, food for thought as I slowly make my way through the sticky note here. Oh my gosh. All right. And so this is the one that is, or called the SAVE Act. All right. So we'll just kind of go through all of these. Love when you babble. Yeah, when they have a meeting, exactly. It's a good question, right? Right? I mean, I don't think anything's off the table these days because we're crazy. I'll be flipping bricks. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, oh, dear. I don't know. Russia doesn't need any more territory. In my humble opinion, they've got plenty, and they still screw up. And there's lots of problems with what they already have. It's like, take care of your house before you go into other people's houses. That's just me. I'm no Putin. So there you have it. Crazy train, exactly. Right, to ask the lawmakers to vote no. I love that. All right, excellent. Hello, Paul. Welcome in. So yes, I think there's lots of questions here. Give us to Canada. Canada doesn't want us. We had a relationship back in the 1700s and they walked away and they're like, dear US, no, this isn't good for us. This isn't good for either of us, so we gotta go. I laughed, but it was sad. And you can look that story up in the Articles of Confederation if you're interested. Oh my gosh. Mexico, man. Yeah. Bueller. Oh my gosh, that's what my hub says when he gets home. He's like, Bueller? And we all come out like, hey. No, we don't really all come out. Right, let's start at the very beginning here. You gotta laugh. True story. We're starting at the very, very beginning, Sound of Music style here. So all of this stuff that we're dealing with is because they're trying to modify the Voter Registration Act. So the Voter Registration Act was passed in 1993, and nobody remembers it, which is fine until we get into this kind of rubbish where, we've got 80 pages here of this bill, and all of this is to be put into this voter registration, six pager here. So that's how the law's working here. This is past the House, is my understanding, and I think the Senate did not have enough votes, but I'm not sure. If that happened, it would have been in the last 24 hours, and I have not seen it. So, of course, we needed a supermajority in order to pass it out of the Senate. I don't know if that's happened yet. It could be happening. Oh, thanks, Gamer. Gamer Grammy, extra super fun. So anyway, it needs to get out of there. But again, this is just so important. Everyone is very worried, and rightfully so. And that's because we don't really understand what the H this crap is, right? So, yeah, only minor adjustments. Exactly. Oh, a few little, twerk. That's not the right word. Tweaks. Need more coffee. So I've got two acts here. The two acts, the Voter Registration, again, Make Elections Great Again Act, and the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. Two acts, people, two acts. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the original voter registration law. We've just got to read through it because this is what's getting added to, right? Tweaks, thank you very much. Is it Michi? Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, that's cracking me up. That's the funniest thing ever. It really does. You're not wrong. You got it. All right. So again, as I said when I first came on earlier today, that I have not fully annotated this batch. Now I've got another batch, of course, that's been fully annotated that I like to read through, right, before I share with others. But this one I left only done a little bit because I wanted to annotate it with you. So if you want to figure out how these bills work and why things are the way they are, you can annotate yours out as well. So, I think that a lot of people have found that healthy. So the key here, again, real quick, with the annotating before I get started, is that I always go in rainbow order so I don't forget what each thing is. Each annotation is going to touch, the outline format we have here. So yellow is just like this is what it is, section 2. So then I need one for an A, one for a 1, here's a B. As we go through this outline format, each one needs a different color, but each color needs to mean something. So I put, hello. So I put my highlighters in rainbow order. So we need red, which we don't have. This is basically my red. So I put that at the top. Orange, right? Orange G. And then Biv here. So, and I'll put my pink one up here. We'll pretend that this one's red. So this is the order I'm gonna use, and this is my extra special highlighter. So, a lot of people think it's weird. My family thinks it's weird. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, mind your business. So when before we annotate, we got to make sure we have a key. Now, usually I would do a little sticky like this, but at this point, we just need to get moving here. So I'm making sure I know what order. Oops, sorry, got a little bit over there on the bill. That's all right. But I do want to go in order, and I want to make sure that my order stays the same for all of the bills that we're going to be pulling apart, as well as the law. The key to annotating isn't, well, did I get everything that I needed? No. The key to annotating is recognizing, like, these are these and these are those. So this is going to be our order, and I just made our key here so I don't forget. And also, there's no annotation police out there. So if you're like, whoops, this was supposed to be pink and instead I made it orange, like, that's all right. They're not going to be coming for you over that. So no worries. You don't have to be perfect about it, but you just want to be consistent. All right. So these here, we're just going to do 4. And sometimes if the pieces go past 4 subsections, then, I'll bring in the other colors if I have to. That's right. No, Toodle. No. Give me your order. But when I brief a case, again, like if I was going through and briefing Plessy versus Ferguson. I would have pink would be precedent, orange is the court's decision, green are facts, and blue is the law. So if you can put a key to what you're reading and keep that key going, and you can annotate anything as far as you want. All right, so here we go. We're going to get started again here with the Voter Act because this is where it all started. All right, so this, again, we're going to do the Sound of Music style. So let's annotate. First, we've got the short title here. Next, this act may be cited as the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. I think somebody said over here they were only like 5 years old in 93, and that's okay. All right, and so we've got section 2, findings and purpose, section 3, definitions. This section is the one the administration tends to really go after or tries to find the loopholes. And basically, they go to the definitions section of any law and they kind of, mess around with it a little bit in order to get what they want. All right, so you're only one. Good for you. Good for you. I was more than one. All right, so we're going in our order here. So subsection A here, which is going to be findings. And then, and again, we're going to take our time here today, everyone. We have got to figure out what's going on with these voter bills, even if they become, if they get kicked out of Congress. It's okay. We still need to understand what's going on here, no matter what. So findings and purposes here. So you have findings and purposes and the definitions. We'll go through definitions in a minute, but we want to make sure we understand what the findings and the purpose are. So subsections 1, 2, 3 here, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so here's section 2, findings and purposes. Let's go ahead and read through that. So Congress finds that the right of citizens of the United States to vote is a fundamental right. So, and I'm going to give you my legal analysis as we go along. Now that Congress has declared it a fundamental right, we don't have to ding around with the Constitution. That's why that word fundamental is important. Also, it means if we've got voter questions that are fundamental, we are in the U.S. Supreme Court's jurisdiction. All right, so that's how important that fundamental right piece is. Let me give you another example. When it comes to AB, if we had codified Roe, we would have had in here findings, and then down here could have said that ABs are a fundamental right. That's all it would have taken, and we would have codified Roe. But alas, that did not happen. Thank you, Dobbs and Alito, for nothing. Number 2, it is the duty of the federal, state, and local governments to promote the exercise of that. And what we like here is that they've named all 3. We've got federalism in play big time on this one, where the feds are trying to take power away from the states, which is weird because I thought they didn't want to do that. But alas, that's what they did. All right, so we've got federalism here, and then 3, discriminatory and unfair registration laws and procedures can have a direct and damaging effect on voter participation in elections for federal office. Again, states run their own show, and they run a show that the feds can be a part of, but it's really up to the states, and disproportionately harm voter participation by various groups, including racial minorities. So that, again, this is in that Voter Registration Act. They're setting it out, and they're like, look, we have a problem here. And that's just good law. So far, we'll have to come back in again with the SAVE Act and see what they're cutting and adding to the Voter Registration Act here. All right, so next we have purposes. The purposes of this act are 1, to establish procedures that will increase the number of eligible citizens who register to vote in elections for federal office. I'm going to bet this one is one they're going to want to change because they do not want to increase the number. In fact, they want to decrease the number from what I've seen from their filings. So, and from, of course, Project 2025. So Yeah. Number two, make it possible. Again, this is the purpose of this act. Make it possible for federal, state, and local governments to implement this act in a manner that enhances the participation of eligible citizens as voters in elections for federal office. Now, again, I would draw your attention, and this is so important. All right, so important. They are talking about federal people, the federal offices. So if you've got a county board of supervisors, that's not what this is talking about. If you have a governor, that is also not what they're talking about. Those are all state positions, state offices, or city council, or whatever. All of those not included in the National Voter Registration Act. The only thing here is that it's applicable to federal offices, right? So if you look at it like two ballots, one ballot is your state, local, all of that stuff, and they've already, set it out. And then on the other side are your U.S. representatives, U.S. senators, the president, electors. So those are the ones over in the federal voting, all right? So specific to those offices is the federal office, and that's what this is applying to, okay? So again, every time you see federal office, keep that in mind. This law works for federal offices, okay? So important. All right, so next here we've got, right, we're trying to make it easy, right, in a manner that enhances the participation of eligible citizens as voters. I bet we're going to have a little different change here as well. And then number three, to protect the integrity of the electoral process, right? And to ensure that accurate and current voter registration rolls are maintained. So we have right here findings of Congress and purposes of this Voter Registration Act. So from what we're just hearing, everyone, what is just being put out there for the SAVE Act and various other things, right? They're saying the same thing. They're saying basically the same thing. They may take out this encouragement to enhance participation, which we'll see here in a minute. They may not be. But other than that, what I'm trying to say is the law's already here. We already have the law in place. So the tweaks and the turns and the twerks here are going into a law that's already good law. That's already, what they're saying. They're just saying it again. So let me see. Let's go through here. I want to see if I can just do, twerks, right? Hi, Kristen. Welcome. All right, hold on here. I'm going to say we could... all right, section 2 here. Right, definitions is where they start. So, right, just a second here, everybody. I'm just putting these in definitions. It's going to be subsection. We're going to have a section here with a new title. So, new title, and then we're going to have an A that's going to start us for our definitions here, and then go through first what they want to do. So the first change that they want in the new bill, I'm just making sure that this is going along with the statute. The first change are going to be these two words as used in this act. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and annotate this little piece because we got like 4 pages we got to put into here. So let's do that. All right. So again, the definition section is the most important piece, I think, in a lot of situations. I should have another part because I think section 3 is longer than that. Let's just double check. Yeah, we've just got a couple over here. So what this is saying here, right, as used in this act, the term, quote, election has the meaning stated in section 3011 of the Federal Election Campaign Act. There you go. So you gotta look that up in order to see what that is. Two, the term federal office has the meaning stated in Section 3013 of the Federal Election Campaign Act. Again, that's set out in that code section. The term motor vehicle driver's license. Now we're getting into more details, right? Because, who's in charge of all of the driver's licenses in the U.S.? Let's ask the chat that. Who's in charge? Who's in charge of motor vehicle driver's licenses? Or is it license I? I don't know. Who's in charge? Right? Oh my goodness. Yes. Right. The state. That's right, Toodle. You got it. So when you, the reason why this is so important, right, is because a motor vehicle driver's license, that's a big whoop-de-doo-dah, and that's a state question. So the feds come in and they're like, we want to change your motor vehicle driver's licenses, right? And the state's like, we got everything we already need. We're set. We're good to go. Our people voted, and this is what we have. And then the feds are like, we understand you're in charge of that, but we want you to do it our way, or we're not going to give you any federal money. See how that happens? And that's actually a huge example that happened when it came to age of drinking, because a lot of states want to keep it at 21. I'm sorry, it's at 21, but hold on. Yes, thanks very much. Right. Do vote. Yes, it used to be 18. Right, that's what, right. We flipped it. Right, that's what I was thinking. I was like, gosh, 18, it was 18 previously. Yes, but there's also a case where for the ladies, it was 18, but for the fellas, it was 21. So that's a very important equal rights law that went up to the Supreme Court. So as I digress, yes, and it's 21 now. So who sets the age then on whether or not you can drink, right? Well, the states do. That's a state issue. But if you don't do it the way the feds want, which they said they wanted at 21, the states are like, well, why can't we do 18? We've always done 18. And the feds say, set it to 21 or you won't get any federal funding, right? This is a nuclear option. And I don't think people realize that because of the enormous damage that's been done. But for the federal government to say to a state, we're pulling your funding if you don't change your age from 18 to 21, that's a nuclear option. That's where they're literally staring at the state. They're like face to face, and the state has to decide, well, do we really need that money? Do we really want to keep this? And they're basically bullied into what the federal government wants them to do. Very rare because it is a nuclear option. And guess what? It's being used 25 times a day under this administration. Hundreds of lawsuits are being filed because this nuclear option is being abused terribly. So just as a little insight here. I know, right? All right, so here we go. And then motor vehicle driver's license, any personal identification document issued by a state motor vehicle authority. All right, now, you can kind of go a little bit hand in hand because that federal DOT situation is also involved, but again, it's up to the states. Number 4, the term state means state of the United States and the District of Columbia. That's important. And 5, the term voter registration agency means an office designated under Section 7A1 to perform voter registration activities. So those are our, yeah, exactly. That's what bullies do. You're so right. Definitions, right? We only have a few. So let's start looking at the law. So this is, you can call it, there's 2 names. This one is Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, right? Or, and they put this in here, or the Save American Act, because the original Save Act was just like kicked over, and it's included in here anyway. So let's take a look at how this law works. Here's section 3 for definitions. Now, section 1, 7296, again, they're just going to set out what the name is here. So we're going to have the name here changed as well. So, because it says here, this act may be cited as the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. And then this in here, this act may be cited as the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act or the Save America Act. So we have another name in here for the additions that we're doing, against everybody's will. So next we have section 2. And section 2 appears finding and purposes, and I don't see anything here that they've included to change. But if we come down here to definitions, now we're going to start getting into kind of the crux of it, right? So here it's saying definition of documentary proof of United States citizenship, section 3 of the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. So section 3, this is what they're talking about right here. This is where they want to make their changes. So let me annotate this one out very quickly so we don't get lost. See how easy it is to get lost in this, all of this stuff. So here we go, A and B and no C. And then we have a sub 1, 2, sub 1, 2, and 3, and 4. We'll leave it at that, all right? So they're talking here. So look, right here on the bill, they're saying, oh, there it is. That's what we want to do. Definitions of documentary proof of United States citizenship, section 3, National Voter Registration Act here. So section 3, they're asking to, the first thing is to strike as used and insert sub A in general as used. All right, so A here, let's make sure I get this right here. They're adding another subsection that's going to say in general as used. In general. General as used. Right? So let's just double check and make sure. So we've got section 2, and then this is section 2 here, and then section 3 down here. The full name and the interview. I know, it's a lot of problems with that. So they're wanting to change this. Let me take a peek down our road here. Oh my gosh, this is just crazy bananas. Presenting to that, they want to add all of this to that first piece of the section of section 3. It looks like it. It looks like that's what they want to do. So it looks like most of this is going to be going in just this one section. Oh my goodness. So they've recreated it. So let me just give you the titles, and then we're going to jump into the bill full force. So we've got definitions, national procedures for voter registration for elections for federal office. Again, you can see how they're going to want to change that, right? The national procedures, they're telling us they're wanting to change that. And then number 5, simultaneous application for voter registration, application for motor vehicle driver's license here in section 5. And then section 6, mail registration. So if you want to file absentee, in section 7, voter registration agencies, also here. And then, I know this law looks pretty overwhelming. And then 8, requirements with respect to administration of voter registration. So they're basically coming in and tweaking everything into what they want to have as their system of voting. And that's where things get really, really not great, all right? Because you don't want the federal government overtaking the states any more than they already have. Federal coordination and regulations. So this, again, is the piece where they recognize it's up to the states based on the Constitution that you are supposed to, the states are supposed to take care of it, not the feds. Civil enforcement and private right of action here. So let me just take a peek. Attorney General may bring a civil action in an appropriate district court for such declaratory or injunctive relief as is necessary to carry out this act. right? So the attorney general can come in and file civilly if she thinks you're not in compliance with what's going on here. That's already in the law here. And here's our effective dates, which we don't have an effective date, I think, for the SAVE Act. It's just like once everything's signed, boom, you're done. And it doesn't matter for the states that agree to do it. All right, there's your overview. Let's hit the bill here. Well, you want to hit it. That's violent, right? Right. This one's already been abused enough. Look at this. I got a pink highlighter. All right. Anything to take the nightmare into a smiley zone, right? Here we go, everybody. As we go through this, this is just, again, a bill. So we're adding to the law. To amend the National Voter Registration Act of 1993 to require proof of United States citizenship to register an individual to vote in elections for federal office and for other purposes, right? So requiring proof of U.S. citizenship. I guess what I would say here is like, duh, like they already do that. They already do that, and that's what the feds don't like. They're like, we want you to do it the way we want to have it done, not the way the state wants to do it. You're not going to be able to fill out your registration to vote form with all of that information without showing, you know, where things are, where your citizenship is, right? So, right. Without registering, well, that's a good point. So that's what I'm saying here. You don't, whenever you are filling out your registration, let me just make sure this is in all states. I think it is. But it's a two-step process, right? One, you have to register, right? Register. You have to fill out the paperwork with all the information for requirements to vote. In the Constitution, it says you have to be a citizen in order to vote. So in order to be in compliance with the Constitution, we've got different questions that we have to ask about at registration. And then you can go in after that and do the voting. And that's why they're going to have to check and see if you filled out the registration information. They're going to check it on the roll, and then you're going to go and vote. All right, is that what everyone else has here? They've already said they won't. Yeah, I was wondering. I thought it was hitting the Senate here pretty soon. Right, citizenship papers. I don't like that term either. I think legal documentation is better. When you register, you have to give your social. Right. Do you have to show your any other, if you've changed your name? Let me ask you that, because after I got married, I changed my name, and then I had to change my voter registration name on that, right? And so I did that. Do most people do that? Or, because I need some knowledge here. Do most people, when they get married, not change their name on their legal paperwork? Because I feel like I never changed my name back after my divorce. Well, Ms. Montana, I think that you're in a unique position, right? Because you probably have two legal names. And so you're going to want to combine that into just one, just to make your life easier. Or, flip around, do whatever you want. Many men and women change their names. Exactly. Change your social security number. That's good too. You did great, Jenny. So this, for me, I want to say, so for now, right, I want to say, of course, we've got some disenfranchisement going on here. Of course we do, as I will continue through this here in a second. But of course, but also this is a moment where, when you're dealing with legal documents, everybody deals with legal documents, right? So you have to write your legal name. Right? What's your legal name? And if your legal name is just a name you've been using, but it's not a legal name, then you're going to have some troubles, right? So if you're like signing this affidavit and you say, okay, well, John Snow, and you're like, oops, it's actually Beverly Snow, but I just go by John. You're going to have problems, right? You got to have the name, your legal name. So when people are talking about birth certificates and various other things, those are a couple of examples of what they say you can use in here to show that passport, birth certificate stuff. But the bottom line, if you take the voter disenfranchisement out of this, just move it to the side for a minute and just look at how this would affect you, it's a moment for you to say, do my legal documents match? Do they match? Right? Because if you're signing that affidavit as Jon Snow, but that's not your legal name, you're gonna have some troubles. You're gonna have to go back and show them that it was Beverly. All right, so they're adding this huge piece again to push people away from voting. But I would say rather that, use it as your moment in time to just think for a minute. Like, do all my legal documents match? Like, do they match each other? And that's really important. Do we have to have, you don't have to, Letitia, you don't have to. Letitia, my question would be, is your name legally the same on all of your legal documents? That's pretty much what I would say. Yes. So, right. We're talking again about registration. That's the other thing. If you're like, can I just use this, this, and this? You need to call your local county auditor office and say, what do I need? And then that person can be like, blah, 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 blah. And, we've got a lot of rural communities here in the U.S., so I want to remind anyone in the rural communities, you already know. Just ask her. Just be like, hey, dude, what do we need for this? But again, technically, this is all going to be for the federal election. They can only regulate the federal elections how they want it to be done, all right? Not any of the state stuff. But they're also not going to take you through two lines. Like, all right, here's the ones that are doing the feds. Here's the ones that are doing the states. They're not going to do that because it's so much work for the poll workers in there, okay? Right. Hey, yo. Excuse me. Now, I can sit here and be like, all right, everybody, get your legal documents to match. And then, everyone's like going and searching for birth certificates. Like, I don't have it. So you have to order it from the county you were born in. And you got to wait for it to come. And then you got your marriage license, marriage certificate. Or maybe you just changed your name. Maybe you just changed your name because you hated your name, right? But you didn't legally do it. You just, did it in high school. So instead of being like called Sarah, in high school you preferred Jimmy Bean. And so you're like, I'm Jimmy Bean. No. Don't put that on your apartment application or your student information or any of that. No. Legal name. That's it. That's what this is saying. Use your legal name. And if it's not set up, if your legal name's not set up yet, go ahead and do that. And is it going to be expensive? Depends on where you're at. And it looks like from what I've seen, some Republicans are trying to pull free registration places where they're like, we're going to help you get registered. And they're saying you can't do that. So we're struggling right now with kind of a malice that's settling over this whole situation. From the Republicans. I used to say it might not be all the Republicans, but at this point, with everyone seeming to support the little guy with the glasses, it's like, well, I think they're all in the same boat. Kristen, hello, K Chaos. Excuse me. Nonprofit library. There are a lot of places actually in a lot of different communities that want to help. And that are like, dude, let's make it as easy as possible. How can we make this any easier? And some people, you may not know, but some people, part of the Get Out the Vote campaign, will go in and be like, hey, you voted? No. Or are you registered? No. Well, here, I've got registration. Should we do this or do you not want to do it? And so that's another thing, is literally coming to your house. All Texas elections are done on the same ballot. Right, okay, and that's fine too. But some have them set out in a little different way, right? We got 50 nifty plus territories, so it might be done a little bit differently. Now, Jennifer, the thing too to remember, Jenny, I'm sorry, I apologize. Wait. I lost my person. Where'd you go? Hold on. Jennifer, there you are again. I was like, what? All right, so you're in Texas, right? And let's say Texas doesn't want anything to do with this bill. They're like, we're not doing this. We don't need your money. So that means then they won't accept the numbers for the federal. Then just cross it out. They just cross it out and be like, nope, we're not going to do that here. And then the lawsuits will come raining down. If they're on the same ballot, how can they enforce the requirement for documentation? Because they're going to make you have it anyway. They're not going to separate the sovereignty of the state's election practice and voter practice that's been voted on and approved by the people of the state. They're not going to be able to protect it. So they're going to have to follow the federal rules for the state election stuff. See how we're getting into this manipulation between, like, the states are like, dude, we have our own process. But on the same ballot, they could print different ballots, but, they've got the federal stuff. And then also there could be a civil rights issue. Like, well, my state wouldn't let me vote on the federal issue because they didn't want to comply with the federal regulations. And it just turns into a nightmare, right? So there could be a lot of problems. Free passports for all. Oh my gosh, it's so expensive. It's so expensive. But I will tell you, as a brief side note, it was more expensive. I had to change my passport multiple times. I've had multiple names. Don't try to find me, people. But the most expensive thing was like the mail. It was so expensive. It was like, how much do you need for me to mail this certified envelope? Dang. It's not very different. They've just included another section in here from HR 22. Right. You do have a constitutional right to vote. You do. Because it says in the Constitution that you can vote. Now, we want to look at rights versus privileges. What's a privilege? A driver's license. What's a right? Voting. Now, a lot of the language can get jerked around, but I would say, based off of the Voter Registration Act piece that we just went through, when they talk about what actually it needs to be, they're like, there you go. They're very clear about it. Let me just show you what I'm talking about here. Excuse me. Where was it? Hold on. Give me a second. Nope. Oh, here we go. In a manner to enhance participation. Yeah, they're not going to do that. Protect the integrity. Nope, they're not going to do that. Ensure accurate and current voter registrations voter rolls are maintained. Yes. What the feds are doing is they're starting to say, well, we're going to be in charge of that. So show us your voter rolls. No, not true. So again, and we talked about this piece. This is the most important piece. Of course, it's all the way at the top. And that is a finding by Congress. All right. Congress finds that the right of citizens of the United States to vote is a fundamental right. All right. Fundamental. So if you don't want to deal with the 14th Amendment change to 21, if you don't want to deal with the 15th Amendment based off of race, or the 19th Amendment based off of male-female, you can do that. But in the end, yeah. Oh, and the very last one was the 26th Amendment that changed the voting age, right? They're like, if you're old enough to go and fight in a war against your will, hashtag the draft, then, you should be able to vote for the person sending you there. So that was the last one that changed. So it is a right. It is a right that you have. And if you're like, it doesn't say that, fine. Put the Constitution down, step away. Take a look right here. The right of the citizens of the United States to vote is a fundamental right. And that is federal law. So there you have it. All right. And it's backing up the Constitution. Right. Well, we don't, hold on there, Toodle. We're getting there. We're getting to the bad stuff. Well, we're already there. Here we are. Let's read through it then, everyone. Again, I will just continue to annotate as we go here. So, Section 2, ensuring only citizens are registered to vote in election for federal office. Again, we already do that. A definition of a documentary proof of the United States citizenship. So this is the BS that they're wanting to add, right? They're saying we want to decide what the proof is. We want to be the ones to make that choice. Even if it's the states that have the power, we're going to use our minimal federal elections, of which there really aren't that many. Compared to state and local, you got a whole bunch of, and even state and local judges and stuff, right? So like the least number are going to be the feds. And so they're saying here, well, we're going to tell you what to do if you want to, vote on those little fed issues. Paper B, it might be best. It's all bad. No toodle. Listen, we don't need spoilers. All right, so that's awful here. United States citizenship proof, again, as like, all right, I guess, because you know why? Let's give our poll workers more to do. Let's give them more to do than we already give them. So here we go. Again, they're talking about amending that Voter Registration Act. Now, here's number 1. So we're going to strike as used, and we're going to insert in general as used. And 2, by adding at the end the following. So they're adding at the very end. Let's not get too messed up on where we are, right? So we're on section 3. So this is going to be added here, all right? That's what they're wanting to add, a whole bunch of crap. Adding the following. Here we go. Section B. If it's in quotes, it means it's going to be new language. If it's not, then it's old language being twisted around. All right. A documentary proof of the United States citizenship as used in this act. The term documentary proof of the United States citizenship. See what they're doing? They're changing the definitions, which is what they really like to do here. But it means, with respect to an applicant for voter registration, any of the following. All right, let's look and see what those any means. So number 1, a form of identification issued consistent with the requirements of a Real ID Act of 2005. Right, y'all have heard about the Real ID Act. That indicates the applicant is a citizen of the United States. Now, I don't know about all the real ID stuff. I got like a stack of stuff. I just am like, is whatever I need in here? And the hubs was like, yeah. DNA test. No, I tell you, we even have people fighting, saying that you shouldn't be able to take DNA if they're going to be in the prison system. Like, good luck with that one. The Real ID's all in caps. I think it's because, and I may be wrong, but I think it's because every letter is a different full word. I think it's an acronym, but I may be wrong. Number 2, a valid United States passport. So here's my question. What if it's expired? Do you have to get an up-to-date passport? It's still valid. It's just expired. So it seems to me like you'd still be okay. You don't have to be a citizen, only a legal presence. Well, I'm going straight off of the Constitution, where it's requires you to be a citizen. That's the language. So yeah, that's the language in the Constitution. So if someone's saying you don't have to be a citizen, that information's wrong. It's just wrong. And you can look it up in the Constitution. No worries, Lillian. A lot of people are saying that very thing. I think it's great. Bring it to our attention. Questions are great. Oh, the Real ID. Okay. So the Real ID, I was like, what? Forgetting the Real ID, you don't have to be a citizen, only a legal presence. Now, I don't know. I have not, I've not spent enough time with the Real ID Act. Where do I have it somewhere here, but I've not spent a lot of time on it. Problem right now is you don't have to prove you're a citizen. Not true. And see, that's one of our problems here is you have to prove proper information in order to register, right? If you register to vote, do you not give your legal information to them? when you're going through the registration, do you not have identification and explanation, legal information? They don't even ask for your birth certificate. They just gave you. Well, see, I think then the issue is, Ray Day, I think, and I would be totally up for this, is that then whoever's doing that in whatever county needs to be charged. That's a criminal offense. If they're out of compliance with the law and they're just giving information out left, right, and center that they shouldn't be, if they're just handing them out, that is a criminal that's a criminal charge. That's why it's hard for me to believe that your auditors, your state secretaries are going to be, like, oh, we do whatever we want. Well, if they're not doing what they need to do, then they need to be charged. It just required a social security number and a proof of address. That was the rules in Nebraska. Social security card's pretty good and proof of address. There you go. There you go. Right? There you go. They scan all the documents for the DMV. Excellent. And you probably can also get a lot of those DMV records if you are matching it in a voter roll call here. You don't get a social security number unless you're citizens. Right. And that gets complicated because there are some numbers that are given out as part of our immigration process legally, where there is a number, it's called something else, and then that gives you the ability to go and work. So literally social security number only for citizens. This other number that's clearly not social security is supposed to be what can be used off to the side. ITIN, thank you. They asked if I wanted. I said no. They didn't. Right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. The other question I had then too. I mean, great. We gotta get these questions worked through here. All right. In Alabama, you gave your license, your date of birth, social, but you did online. Okay. Well, in Alabama, that might have been enough, and that seems to me. Right? Like if they had questions about your citizenship, they could pull that up based off of the information that you just gave them here. All right. Now, one of the things too in many of our rural communities that I don't want you to forget about, because I personally am out in the sticks and we're here. And so when the person at the place where you're registering, you sit down, fill out yourself, they know you. First of all, that's a really big deal. They already know you. How's your mom? How's your sister doing? Blah, 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 blah. A lot of people, they already know you. And so then you go in to vote and you'll be like, oh, I made you some cream of chicken soup. Here you go. I know it's going to be a long day, and then like apple fritters. They already know you. I feel like that element in our rural communities, of which we have a lot, is not really given enough credit, right? So that's another thing too with our poll workers, is they're like, do this, do all of this other stuff. And they're like, but I know who it is. I've seen him grow up his whole life. I know he's from here, right? So that's something. Oh, the DACA. The DACA is a mess. The DACA is an absolute mess. It was an attempt. The green card holders get a social. Well, all right. There you have it then. There you have it. But the whole DACA situation, oh my gosh, it's just so sad. It makes me cry. It makes me cry. And not much does. But the DACA situation, horrific. All right, back into it, everybody. Let me explain this to you in 30 minutes. Well, no. All right, here we go. So we got the real ID stuff for people. There's another thing too, though, I thought, like if you don't have a real ID, then you can't fly. Is that right? You need that too? I know, yeah, it makes me cry. It's so sad. The poll workers already know. Exactly right. Into provisional ballots. And provisional ballots are not a bad way to go as long as they're done properly, right? And the question then is in my opinion, who's running each individual precinct to make sure all the rules are being followed, because the state's going to have its own people making sure that everyone's in compliance with the law, right? That's kind of their job. They kind of like fly around and do stuff. You can fly, but you pay an extra fee. Why am I not shocked about that? Precisely the concerns done. We will need more poll watchers. Oh my gosh, Zoe. More and training. And they're not getting paid enough, whatever it is. Sitting there eating the potato salad when there's a lull. It's like they are not getting paid enough to deal with this kind of crap. Right. You can pay $45 charge. Weird. That's going to probably be well, I don't know if it's an airline issue. Precinct captain. I thought precinct captains were party sensitive. So I thought there was a Democrat one and a Republican one and then an independent. But I don't know. So maybe you're right that it is that precinct captain. I hope they need a fruit basket because that stuff's rough. It's hard on election day. Yes, poll workers and poll watchers. Thank you, I apologize. Oh my goodness, it gets all mixed up. All right, let's dive back in here. It's a dangerous job. It really is, especially the last couple. I was very worried for the poll watchers. For the people, we have a board with reps. There you go. We call them the managers. Okay, precinct manager. All right. Okay. Ooh, I'm an election official. This is all alarming. Oh, Zoe. Yes. It is alarming. Here we go. Let me get through this little piece here. Oh, the squirrels are everywhere with the great questions, though, everyone. So we're talking about a passport. Next, the applicant's official United States military identification card. Here, right? But what if you got out like 20 years ago? I don't know. Together with a United States military record of service showing the applicant's place of birth was in the United States. So if they're showing a record of service, what if you're dishonorably discharged, right? What if you really screwed up? And I think it's the Dulles case. That could be completely wrong. Because we had a U.S. Supreme Court case where this fella went AWOL in Casablanca and was like, well, this is crap. I got to go back. And so then he goes back and he gets court-martialed, kicked out, and then later was like, can I get a passport? And they're like, no, we've revoked your citizenship. So because of that, it's Trope v. Dulles. Because of that, he was like, dude, I need my passport. Went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, you cannot remove somebody's citizenship because of a crime. You can't do it. They have to proactively say, I am no longer a citizen, and go through a couple of other paperwork situations. All right, so you can't just take citizenship away. Right, okay. Born overseas military base, are they a citizen served but born in a different country? Any kind of territory that is within the jurisdiction of the United States is this country. So I know there's a base in Germany and several other, like Japan, right? Korea. If you're born there, again, that's American, whatever. That they're taking care of. Or you can have a double. You can have a dual. They have U.S. citizenship, exactly. But, we got to be careful because, quite frankly, this administration's not doing the military any favors or, doing anything appropriate. Oh, my gosh. I guess it's a lot. Moving down here, so this is not how you spell Dulles, but I'm just saying, if you want to read that case, if you put this first part in, don't worry about that part, then it'll pull the case up for you. U.S. soldier, Department of State, born abroad document. There you go. Thanks, Elizabeth. Right. Not even themselves. Again, I think one of the big issues, and I got to dive back in here, everybody. I keep promising myself I'm going to keep going. One of the biggest issues, I think, is the literal incorrect visualization that people have of people coming across our border in the South, the southern border. The information is not clear. It is, I think, propagandized, and the numbers aren't matching what people really think. But they get this vision in their head of what it means to cross the border, in an illegal way. So that I think is number one. We got to stop. We got to figure out where that propaganda is coming from and, put a pin in it. All right, next up, military people, good luck. And 4, a valid government issued photo identification card issued by federal, state, or tribal government. Oh, I'm glad they included that. They never include anything to help our indigenous, which drives me crazy. All right, before I finish the sentence, let me do a quick annotation here. We got a 5 here, and then subsection. Let me just make sure I get those right. Okay, here we go. A, and A is the only one we have here. So then we have our little tiny eyes here. See, it takes like 30 seconds and then boom, now the bill looks fine. It's like I can understand it now, right? How would they know that's the point of crossing? Well, right. So, but I mean, there's lots of different ways that it happens, but I don't think they realize the numbers. The numbers are with those that are on expired visas. That's my understanding. Right? That's my understanding, is that we have people who overstay past the deadlines when they're supposed to go, as opposed to a whole bunch of people like crawling through the water. That's a piece of it, don't get me wrong, but that's not the majority. What the hell? Won't hit the floor till the 23rd. The Senate's doing pro forma sessions till then. Okay, what the hell? That sounds great. Right, place of birth was in the U.S. Hello, Chris. All right. Yeah, okay. For some reason, I thought the Senate, the 23rd's when Thune said he's doing his first actual roll call. Ooh, okay. Great place. Yes, thank you, VC, with the website there. Are you tracking that? What the hell? Everybody, do you see what the hell down in the comments? You should go and follow her. She's got great information, incredibly great information when it comes to what's going on at the Capitol. Probably on the internal camera. Okay. On calendar. Got it. Yay! We're going to have to start doing some, we're going to have to partner up here at some point. Oh, I know. What the hell? Oh my gosh. And she's an incredibly talented singer as well. So if you're lucky enough to hear her sing, yay! All right, video pins. Okay, about the Rules Committee doing crazy, really, to make it happen. Yeah, this is weird because HR 22 was like last April. Like, what are they even doing here? Right. Oh, we'll do it. We will, absolutely. We'll get the deets sorted because everybody who's cool says deets, right? All right, here we go. Let's get to at least past this part of definitions. All right, federal, state, or tribal government showing that the applicant's place of birth was in the United States. Right, so a valid government-issued photo identification card issued by federal, state, or tribal government other than an identification described in paragraphs 1 through 4. So here they're saying, right, as we just went through it, you got to have a real ID or a passport or military identification or government-issued photo identification for something, right? And if you don't, right, if you don't have here, so they're saying have these, but if you don't have it, does that mean you can't vote? No, it means you come over here and you look through and figure out if you have one of these other things. So if you don't have 1 through 4, but only if presented together with one or more of the following. So A is a certified birth certificate issued by a state, a unit of local government in a state or a tribal government, which I was issued by the state unit of local government or tribal government in which the applicant was born, was filed with the office responsible for keeping vital records in the state. So that would be auditor, secretary of state. 3, include the full name, date of birth, and place of birth of the applicant. List the full names of one or both of the parents of the applicant. Let's pause for a moment on that one. All right, we're going through the birth certificate. All right, this is another problem that's not, I think, getting spoken about enough, or maybe it is, I'm in the wrong place. I need to watch for it better. But it says on here, list the full names of one or both of the parents of the applicant. So what if you don't have, that? What if the parents aren't signing the birth certificate, right? I think that's a really big question. What if you're put up for adoption, or your parents are refusing, or your mom is refusing? I'm saying mom only because physically they're the ones that have the baby. To me, this seems like it could be a really big problem here. So listing the full names of one or both of the parents of the applicant. I think that right there could cause some problems, right? We were worried about adopted children. Yes, and rightfully so. And rightfully so, absolutely. So that's another one. Now, each one of these here, as we read through it, again, issued by a state here, or which has, it was issued, it was filed, it includes, it lists, and here's another one, has the signature of an individual who is authorized to sign birth certificates on behalf of the state, a unit of local government or tribal government in which the applicant was born. So now we also need a signature. So let me ask you this. One thing too is a lot of our older generation Americans, the much older, are going to have different signages on theirs, right? Did a doctor even sign it? Did their parents sign it? I mean, what are we even talking about? I know my birth certificate's a little bit weird looking because I'm mixed, and for some reason that just, everybody was like, what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. And then what about Obama? That dude, he was born in Hawaii. Look what happened there, So that's not right for trying to use birth certificates. Right. Had a birth certificate card. It was made of metal. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, your parents didn't sign. Well, that's it. Yeah, and that's a problem. That again, it's a problem. And I think it's because their perspective of that's so funny. I love that so much, Miranda. But they forget, I think, the people in the ivory towers making the bills with the little evil fella with his glasses are like, well, why can't they just do it? If it's important enough, they'll do it. And I'm like, excuse me, but you have you're just like a loaf of white bread. And you know what? There's other breads out there. And they don't realize it. They're like, it's just us. We're the greatest thing ever. No, you're not. So this is going to work for white bread. But will it work for everyone? No. So you get yourself sorted out, because that's the laws are supposed to do, right? Gotta go. Oh, absolutely. Oh, thanks so much. Oh, yes. We'll chat again very soon. Right. There, white bread. It's not a marble rye. It's not a pumpernickel. It's just some white Wonder Bread. And when they wrote this down, they're like, well, other Wonder Breads will have plenty of this. It won't be any big deal. It's like, we're not all Wonder Bread, dumbass. Oops, sorry. Dingleberry. Don't cuss. I was just like, you get so mad. I'm like, no, only when I'm on Manda's lives do I lose my cool. Oh my gosh, yeah, I gotta go back to anger therapy class. All right, here we go. Let's flip it. We'll cover here as well. Oh, Ding Dong's a good one. Passport apps are about to get processed extremely well, right? And we barely had caught up from the vid, right? From the vid business. It took forever. Right? Or a chocolate babka. Oh my gosh, yes. We mustn't forget the babkas, everybody. We mustn't ever forget. And they have. So number 6, Roman numeral 6, includes the date the certificate was filed with the office responsible for keeping vital records in the state. All right. and has the seal of the state. That's important. I would feel more comfortable with this had the Republicans noticed that there were no seals on the fake electors paperwork. So I'd feel better about them being like, oh, you gotta have the state seal. Well, why? You didn't require that for the fake electors, right? When our country almost flipped. Yeah, you didn't care then, Wonder Bread. Sorry, getting sassy, gonna need a nap soon. Yikes. All right, here we go. That frustrates me a lot. All right, next, okay, so just to make sure we're following along here. These are the subsections. Oh my gosh, of what's needed. So they're saying if you don't have these originals here, but you have some kind of, like a driver's license, and here, so right, government issued photo identification card issued here, other than an identification described in paragraphs 1 through 4, or I say something else, but only if presented together with one or more of the following. So it has to be, together. And these were the requirements for the birth certificate. So it's not just a birth certificate. It's a birth certificate that qualifies under one of these subsections. All right. So you're like, oh, I got my birth certificate. Great. Does it have what it needs on it? Who knows? Got to double check that. Military dependents, consular report. Really? Okay. Thank you so much. That's great information. Yes, Greyhound. I must agree. So many of you, again, I am coming back, everyone. I'm gonna put my hands right here so you know I'm coming back. Many of you know I'm mixed race. My children are mixed race. My daughter can pass pretty easily as white. My son cannot. And we knew once the orange got in the White House, we had to be more diligent. Now my husband's like, dude, I don't want to hear about the politics or government stuff. I'm just, hi, ostrich, head, sand. Don't talk to me about it. I'm like, all right, whatever. And then he came out like 2 weeks later and he's like, we need to get passports for the kids. And I'm like, yes, we do. We need passports, and then they need to remember to take them when they go out and not lose them. But that's like the first time the Hubs has been like, yeah, I'm a little worried because he knows if you are a shade of brown, there can be bad things that can happen to you. Right. Primary voting started yesterday. All right, there we go. We love it. That's cool. All right, here we go. The last couple pieces here, everyone. B here. So an extract from a United States hospital record of birth created at the time of the applicant's birth, which indicates that the applicant's place of birth was in the United States. So this here, they're saying if you don't have one of those four, but you go to the hospital where you were born and you get a record of birth copied, because they're going to give you the original, right? So go and get some records from that hospital and then say, hey, I need the birth records for this day back in 1965. And they'll be like, sure, give me 30 seconds and then bring it out. You can use that. All right, along with a government ID. TC3. All right, so again, that's rubbish. And, Johnny, forgive me the last name, but Johnny, working so hard. One of the things that he had been saying, and a lot of people have been saying, is that this is turning into the equivalent of a poll tax, right? A poll tax was something put into place to make it so certain people wouldn't be able to afford to vote. So if you couldn't pay the tax, you couldn't vote. So that, of course, is one of our amendments. It said you cannot do that. But rather now than having a technical poll tax, what they're doing is they're requiring documents that people may just not have. They don't have access. They don't have an ability to have access. They're just gone. Like, how am I supposed to go to the hospital, get the birth records from 70 years ago, And so if I get pulled over by a copper, I'm like, oh, here you go. Here's my, hospital record. Like, that's crap. That's not good. All right. So next up, you can birth certificate or records from the original hospital or a final adoption decree showing the applicant's name and that the applicant's place of birth was in the United States. All I picture right now are all of the moms and dads that adopted kids, right? And those kids have grown up and they're out in the world and they're, doing what they need to do. Every single one of them is going to be like, Ma, can you help me find this? And you need to give your mother this or father this piece of the act, all right? You need to say, look, they made me do it. Because all these moms are going to be trying to find, like, do you have hospital records, Mom? Like, what? I think we just need to make sure at a courthouse notarized official copy. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure how that goes about. Microchips are coming soon. Oh, they're here already, Murray. I'm just kidding. My mother can't help me. Well, right, Devin, what do you do, too, in that situation where you're just like, because, you got boxes of stuff that you need to, look through in order to find your stuff. So it's a hassle. But again, instead of a poll tax, and I don't use these words lightly, I really, truly don't, especially when you look at what was happening in this country during the time of the poll tax was horrendous. But what I'm saying here is now they're making requirements that might be fine for Wonder Bread. They're like, hey, our loaves of breads are fine with this. But for anyone, again, who's not included, it's like that we don't have this kind of stuff, right? Knowledge keepers, yes. Right. And honestly, in many cases too, in the foster world, a lot of that documentation is missing and there's just no way to get it again. A final adoption decree, right. So that might be possible, I don't know. A consular report of birth abroad, and I think we just had someone commenting on that, right? Someone was just saying, what if it's abroad? So you have to have this here. Again, and some kind of valid picture that's not something that they've requested. A naturalization certificate or certificate of citizenship issued by Secretary of Homeland Security or any other document or method of proof of the United States citizenship issued by the federal government pursuant to the Immigration and Nationality Act. So basically they said, this is such rubbish here. So they're saying if you have your nationalization certificate, this is just for voting, not for them running into the street, grabbing you, putting you in a van, and shipping you to El Salvador. They can still do that, apparently, with the nationalization certificate. Oh my gosh, it's so awful. All right, so here's your certificate or anything else they decide. This makes me believe that in the works is going to be some other kind of number program, everyone. If we start getting into, the alarm bells ringing from Germany, in my humble opinion, we're going to see it here, where they're saying, or a method of proof of United States citizenship issued by federal government pursuant to the Immigration Nationality Act. So they're putting something together. They're putting some kind of a program together, in my humble opinion, that's going to change how people are registered if they're not from here. So mark my words, we will see why 1930s shades. Oh my goodness. That's a valid question. I've been watching a lot of history right now because, the crying. And I saw one person who's like an expert on the gazpacho. I don't like to say the word out loud, only because, I don't want to get dinged here. But he was talking about, he said, well, a lot of people are like comparing that to ICE or Border Patrol. And he's like, no, that's not appropriate at all. And so they're like, why isn't that appropriate? And he said the schmatzis did it better. They weren't hurting people. They weren't doing it as disorganized, and they had a plan. So the whole point of it was they're not like the schmatzis because they're dumber. And a little piece of my heart died that moment where I'm like, American propaganda. My goodness gracious, I tell you, it takes a while. It takes a few grades down the road to figure out that there's some American propaganda going on here. Oh, they like the triple K. Well, right. And, teamwork between those two recently, although, I don't know about that. I'm not kidding. Again, I, of course, am, anti-schmazzies, of course. Of course that. And that ideology. I don't think it's okay for humans to decide other humans are not humans. I don't like it. I think it's awful. So anywho, but when they're going through the structure and the mission and the role and the protocols that secret, well, it wasn't a secret, that group of people went through was incredibly well organized. The mission was clear. The ways they went through the process were also clear. And here it's like just been an explosion. It's like, boom, an explosion in Oregon or an explosion in Chicago or, somewhere in LA. And then the lawsuits come and they're just like running around and with no true training. And so that's what he was saying. He was like, they were more efficient. They did a better job. Which, again, is like, yikes. Fits the profile. Right. Well, I'm not, it's interesting how the people have kind of come in and taken it. You can't win, change the rules. That's the code. Absolutely. Change the rules, change the definitions. Absolutely. All right, let's finish up here. I keep saying that, and then I keep getting squirreled, which I think is great. I'm so glad you could ask your questions. All right, here we go. Right, so an American Indian card issued by Department of Homeland Security. Is this really? We have so many places where we need to change that. But whatever. The Department of Homeland Security with the classification KIC. All right, so they talked about what you needed to have there. So for the identification, that was part A. Here's part B, application of requirements, section 4 of the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. Again, to just remind everybody, when we started out, we were reading through the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. So these are what they're wanting to add to it. So an application of requirements, section 4 here, National Voter Registration Act. Right. So then down here, requiring applicants to present documentary proof of United States citizenship under any method of voter registration in a state. So again, voter registration, it's done by the state, not the feds. The state shall not accept and process an application to register to vote in an election for federal office unless the applicant presents documentary proof of United States citizenship with the application. And so this is a huge red flag. This is what bothered me the most when I first went through this HR 22. Let's take a look at this language again, everyone. This is the language that's the most disturbing because they're coming in, they're like, well, have this, have that, blah, blah, blah. This is what's disturbing right here. All right, this is pure takeover. All right here. Let's look again. Under any method of voter registration in a state, again, we know that the voter registration is run by the state. The state shall not, we're telling the states what to do. The state shall not accept and process an application to register to vote in an election, again, for federal officers, right, which is that small group of people, unless the applicant presents documentary proof of the United States citizenship with the application. So this is the feds setting out voter rules for the state, when the state clearly was given through the Constitution the role of the voter rules. All right. So they've got little bits and bobs regarding their federal elections, sure. But now we have them coming in and they're saying, well, it's only for federal officers. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? especially when those ballots, and we brought this up earlier, the ballots are including state and feds on there. They're like, well, you know, we only need this kind of action for this small square of voting, and that's how they're trying to get around it. But this is awful. Miller Project, right. Oh yeah. Don't get me started on the women's right to vote, man. Oh my goodness. Shouldn't that be through Department of Interior, not DHS? That I don't know. That I do not know. Here, that's a good question. Yeah. So, you know, and I've gone on here. I've posted multiple times. We've been talking about it a lot of times where it's like your ID and what you need to take in order to register. I get it, stressful, money, stressful, records, sometimes impossible to get. But my opinion, all right, this is the worst part here. They're trying to take over the state's role that was set out in the Constitution, right? So this to me is the warning flag. All right, let's keep going. Registration with applicants for motor vehicle driver's license. Again, covered by the state. So Section 5 of the National Voter Registration Act of 1993 is amended. So, all right, so we're over here again, and Section 5, and here we go. They're asking the states to amend their motor vehicle driver's license. Number 1, in subsection A1, by striking each state motor vehicle's driver's license application and inserting, subject to the requirements under section 8J, each state motor vehicle's driver's license application. Now they're saying this is what you have to do for driver's licenses, right? If you want the driver's license to be able to be used for those federal elections, then you're gonna need to change your motor vehicle rules. Are you freaking kidding me with this? Right? I mean, this is what's getting lost in translation here. All right, here we go. Here's another one. In subsection C1, by striking each state shall include and inserting, subject to the requirements under section 8J, each state shall include. So they're telling the states what they have to do. Let's annotate this out a little bit. Where was I at? I had number 3. Hold on. I had A and I had the B, but it must be on the other side. Right? Ugh. Okay, so I had pink and then red. So that's the thing. You just gotta keep your colors the same. You mess up your colors, you're fine, but still. All right, here we go. We annotate here. All right, so they're telling the states what needs to be done regarding driver's licenses. Ooh, do I need a drink? All right, if you insist. All right. I try not to talk most of the day, so I save my voice just for my lives. So I'm on here, I'm like, blah, 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 because it's the only time I'm talking. No. Yeah. All right. They're saying here in subsection C2B, A, in clause I, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look. We'll just do one here. In subsection C2B, so we're in section, let's just make sure we're in the right section here. Because I'm sure everybody loves it as much as I do here. So here's the piece requiring applicants to present documentary proof of United States citizenship. So that's new, voter registration. So we're going to keep going down here. So here we have section 5, and that would be here. All right, so they're talking about section 5 of the Voter Registration Act, and this is what they're wanting to change here. All right, so the subsection A1, striking each state motor vehicles. Let's just take a look here at what we have, and then we can go back and see what they want to change here. AB. All right. In general, each state's motor vehicle A driver's license application, including any renewal application submitted to the appropriate state motor vehicle authority under the state law, shall serve as an application for voter registration with respect to elections for federal office unless the applicant fails to sign the voter registration application, right? So when you go in, you can perhaps get your registration. Let's look and see what they're doing here. So they're saying, in subsection A1, by striking each state motor vehicle driver's license application and inserting subject to the requirements under section 8J, each state motor vehicle driver's license application. So they're pulling that out. Next, by striking each state shall include and inserting subject to, hold on, I flipped too soon, everybody, too soon. Hold on. All right, requirements here. So now we're looking at subsection C2B, section C, and then here's 2, and then B must be over here because they're trying to make it difficult. Here. All right. So C2B, here's the C, here's the 2, and then hopefully, if we did this the best way, yes, so B here. Okay. Let's go back. I have to do this a lot just to remind myself. All right, see, look at these. Isn't that crazy? C2B. So we're at C2B is right here. So may require only the minimum amount of information necessary to, and then we start getting into the small pieces. So they're adding and here, and. So verify the applicant is a citizen of the United States is also being added here to the code. So that's what they're saying. We want to change these and take away what's written in order to add to it. Oh, sorry, almost fell. No. Papers are falling everywhere. No. Removing the choice. And they're just adding it as a directive on there. All right, do you see what I'm, they're saying, they're taking out, go this way or go that way, and adding no, specifically under section 8J. Everything needs to be in compliance with section 8J of the federal law, and they just keep doing it. So subsection C2C1, by striking including citizenship and inserting including the requirement that the applicant provides documentary proof of United States citizenship. See how they're adding this in? In subsection C2D3, by striking and, so one word, and inserting the following. One word's taken out. Quote, other than as evidence in a criminal proceeding or immigration proceeding brought against an appellant who knowingly attempts to register to vote and knowingly makes a false declaration under penalty of perjury that the application meets the eligibility requirements to register to vote in an election for federal office. And you might think, well, that's enough. No, it's not. It's never enough. It's never enough. And then here's subsection D. So, and then they continue to go on. And I'm going to have to stop us here because of the time limits for me today. But you can see, look at this. We're going to take out one word, and then we're going to clarify that it's criminal for people who are not citizens to register to vote and then go and vote. Let me ask you this. All right, chat. Do we have a law that says if you are not a citizen, you cannot vote? And then if you do vote, then you get charged. Do we have a law that already says that? Yes. The answer is yes. We already have this. All this does is give another piece of power over to the federal government, all right? Why? You might say, well, it's not that big of a deal. Because they're telling the state what the state has to do. they're saying, so if the state's like, no, we don't want to have that kind of language, we have other language we want to use because, it's worked well for us. And the feds are saying, no, you need to use this. This is what you need to have. They're telling the states, you have to have this or we're not giving you federal money. See how each time it gets more complicated. So and there's more here, requiring documentary proof, right? We went through some of those, ensuring proof of United States citizenship. So just over and over and over again, going through what we're gonna allow for citizenship, what we're not, and really being specific here, subsection A, by striking, all right, so we're Voter Registration Act, in the administration of voter registration, and inserting subject to the requirements of subsection J in the administration of voter registration, and B in paragraph 3 down here. So they're striking a whole bunch of stuff and then adding a whole bunch of other stuff. And all of the stuff that they're adding has to do with giving the state orders, right? So let's do a little wrap up here as we keep. This is something we're going to keep talking about because people are worried, rightfully so, and don't understand, rightfully so, because this is not done very well. All right, so here we go, back to the beginning. So this is the Save America Act, Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. So it's not like saving voters. No, it's of eligibility. And what we have learned, they're setting out what they want to have as ID. And then they're specifically going in and telling the state, this is exactly how you need to change your own law to this, because we want you to do all of the things we're requesting of you, state, or you're not going to get any federal money, like what's happening right now. Right? And so when we went through identification, and then we're going through now the pieces where they're saying, strike this, add this, they're pulling that power from the state and they're saying, do what we're telling you to do. I think also it's reasonable to note that our Voter Registration Act for the feds is like 6 pages. Why? Because most of it is done by the state under the Constitution, right? This is what the Constitution says the states have to do. And the feds are like, no, we got a plan. You need to implement the plan that we have. You need to run your elections the way we are telling you to run them, right? So this isn't a situation where they're like, well, we just want to help out. No. No, they are coming in and forcing what they want for identification to be done in these elections. Now they're saying again, and I've said it before, only for federal elections, right? So you're like, well, the states can do whatever they want. No, they can't. This is an enormous amount of work. I cannot even imagine how long it's going to take the state poll watchers, I'm not going to be able to say workers anymore, the people working in it and giving the information out to completely restructure things because they want all of the specific language to be used. So they're not even giving 6 months, whatever. They're saying no, we want it now. We want it all changed now. Are you freaking kidding me? It's just not, we don't have the infrastructure for it. It's just not possible that way. Very authoritarian, very infuriating. And as a side note, What the Hill, whom I adore, you all got to go follow her. She's just so talented. But according to what she said, she knows where everything's at that's going on Capitol Hill. She had said, no, it has not gone through the Senate yet, but there are a few more steps involved. She's been making several posts on this, so go and check her out. Casino slot machines before work. Oh my gosh. It's yes indeed. Yes, she is awesome. There's a lot to this. And one of the things I think the administration tries, or at least the minions try, is to make it so that it seems complicated so people won't try to learn about it, right? Because if you're just looking at this, and you're saying, okay, 88 pages of a bill need to fit in here. Like, that's too much work for anybody to do. But then if you break it down and you're like, let's just talk about this. Let's just talk about this and how this is going to be changed. Much easier to digest, right? For sure, for sure. Vetoed this. Why is it in federal now? So this is federal law. The bill, the SAVE bill, the Make Elections Great Again bill. These are all federal congressional bills that are supposed to be turning into law, right? Governing federal elections. The federal elections piece is the only way the feds can say anything, because in the Constitution, the time, place, manner, structure, however they want to do that, is literally set out in the Constitution for the states. That's a state requirement. So the feds coming in here and saying, well, we're going to set out what you need to do, is a violation of separation of powers. And it's a huge, no when you're dealing with sovereignty. So this is another step on the federal government trying to force the states to do something that the Constitution says the states can do. Right. Can sue, right? Yes. I mean, well, Jennifer, that's a good question. I'm not sure. They're going to have to be pretty specific. And quite frankly, they've got some other cases going right now where they are getting, I've not really been using this word, but the feds are getting cooked pretty good. They're getting cooked. And so this is let's put this one on the back burner because, we're not in a situation where it's going to be like right in front of us right now. So this cooking may occur later, at a later time. Constitution, it was in the Constitution. Don't they need an amendment? Well, right. But what they're doing here is they're trying to change the definitions around, right? So they're trying to say, here only for the federal elections, which they do have this sliver of piece of control when it comes to the federal piece, right? So federal candidates only. And as we know, that's like 5 people. And then the rest of the election is like, 25 people for state and local. So that's the only reason they can even get a hook on this, is because the federal people running. And they know that too. That's how they're doing it. The Second Amendment's in the Constitution. That's right, Lonnie. It is. It certainly is in the Constitution. It's one of the Bill of Rights. It only became a part of the laws that apply to the states, though, in 2010. So we haven't had it around for very long. But yes, it is a Second Amendment. All right, everybody. Well, what do we think? Has that kind of helped clear things up a little bit? Up for re-election? I'm not sure. It goes a third. And that's in the Constitution too. So like every time the House is only 2 years, then they have to run again. And then we've got 6 years in the Senate. But each election, only 30% of them can be up in order to keep Congress from just, pittering out, which is what the problems were with the Articles of Confederation. Articles of Confederation, nobody showed up, and so, they're all just hanging out, smoking some hashish with the Ben Franklin. So they wanted to make sure that the people were in the Congress when they needed to be in the Congress. So that's why they said only a third of the senators are able to go and be campaigning and run. But all of the House of Representatives are there. They're all there. Every single one. Every single House of Representatives person is running this time. Right. Okay, well, with that, again, I hope I've helped to clarify. I mean, again, there's this like, oh my gosh, everything is terrible. Yes, there's a lot of things. that are terrible. The other thing too that I would remind, and every single day I try to remind people, democracy docket. All right, so the democracy docket is what I call them. They're tracking all of the voter registrations, the gerrymandering, the wins, the losses, the ultimate protection of our votes are being tracked by the democracy docket here. So I would say head on over and follow. I think is it Mark Elias? Is that the one that's in there? Anyway, do it. They're amazing. And you'll get a lot more description. Yes, you'll get a lot more description, much more thorough analysis. I'm more of a PB&J person. So they're more of like, what would you like to eat tonight? Kind of over there with their fancy words. So check them out too if you're getting worried about it, for sure. All right, everybody, I gotta go. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me. This was, again, just a bonus live to try to help, kind of bring down that stress a little bit when it comes